Do you know whose I am? You know, a lot of times you hear that phrase kind of like that whenever people say, do you know who I am? But Jesus puts a little different emphasis. He would have us to ask, do you know whose I am? You find that Peter records in 1 Peter 2 and verse 21 that we were called because Jesus Christ suffered for us, leaving us an example that we should follow in his footsteps. The Apostle Paul, whenever he was converted, he pointed out in Galatians 2 and verse 20 that the life that he lived by the faith of the Lord Jesus Christ. In other words, he was his. And Jesus even emphasized in the book of John, the 13th chapter, in verse 34 and 35, he said, a new commandment I give unto you. Now, the commandment he's going to give is love. And love had been given before, but notice how he phrases it, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Even so, ye also love one another. But then he says, by this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another. So that takes us back to that question. Do you know whose I am? You see, Jesus looks and he says that the world ought to see us as so much different. This world is given to selfishness. Everybody seeks after their own. But Jesus points out that the Christian life is one that we follow him. And we demonstrate in our life, we show forth a love that is just as he himself loved us. Now that factors our lives in an amazing way, because you point out in Romans 5, verse 6 through 8, that whenever we were yet without strength, in due time Christ died for the ungodly. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet peradventure for a good man would some die. But God commendeth his love toward us, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So this love is something that, as we have noted before, the word is agape. It's a special word that Jesus brought to a preeminence. That's why he said it's a new commandment. But it is one that seeks the best for another. But is it just for those that we like? Just for those that we say are good people? No, Jesus pointed out that his love was for the whole world. Those in sin, those who had come out of sin, doesn't matter. That is the type of love that we have, or should have. That the world can know that we're his, that we're his disciples. But then you think, well, how am I going to cultivate this? How am I going to get this love in me? In 1 John 4 and verse 19, we find that we love him because he first loved us. Now, the American Standard says it a little different way. It simply says, we love because he first loved us. And I think that's the emphasis. If we love him, we'll keep his commandments. We'll do what he says. We'll live like he says. But whenever we realize the depth of his love, if we act properly and respond properly, will show that love to others. That same sacrificial love for all mankind. Something hard to do. But Jesus set us an example that we should follow in his footsteps. A lot of times we sing that song, more about Jesus would I know, more of his love to others show. That is what our life ought to be. And so again, I ask you as we started out, do you know whose I am? But a more pressing question, does everybody outside of this building, whenever they see me interact with others, whenever they see us in the workplace, whenever they see us at family gatherings, whenever they see us in difficult times, do we demonstrate whose we are by having this love towards those around us? We're starting a new year, and a lot of times resolutions are given forth. Perhaps the resolution we need ought to be centered upon love. Jesus pointed out that the greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. The second is like unto it, that we love others as we love ourselves. And so that love is something that if we're going to have a prosperous new year before us, prosperous in the sense of doing the things God desires and being who God desires, then we're going to love. You know, I look and I consider through the year, you know, what am I going to be preaching on and such as that. And, you know, one of the things that I will strive to emphasize is who Jesus is, what he's done, and what does that make me? What do I surrender to him and let the world know that I am his? Perhaps tonight you need to take that step and become that person as Paul did. He was crucified with Christ. He wasn't disobedient. He went in and he arose and he was baptized to wash away his sins, and then he lived for Jesus. If you've done that, keep on doing it. If you strayed away, step back from demonstrating that love, let the world pull you away. Let's get back to the love that Jesus would have us show. Let's follow that example. If we can help you to do it, let's do it as we stand and sing the song of invitation.